Peace, everybody. How's everybody doing? Hope everyone's having a good weekend and a good Sunday so far. This live I just came up with an hour ago, so I understand it's going to take some time before more people come to the chat. So I'm going to just say like, share, and subscribe, and within the next 2 minutes, I will get into the topic. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get our other avenues on Facebook, so it's not being streamed on Facebook. I was only able to work it on YouTube. I'll try to get that fixed, but as of right now, Facebook is not working. So it's a mess right now. All right, y'all. We are approaching the 3 minute mark. So as you see today's topic is it's over. It's determined before it even begins. And of course, y'all can see the thumbnail. And there's a reason why I chose that thumbnail. The reason why I chose that thumbnail is because let's think about it. We've all heard that famous quote: the battle is won before it even begins. Now, why is that said? And how can we take those cues? Or what can we learn from that quote about nationhood and what we can do in the BIL? The reason why that statement is so valid is because whether or not you win or lose a battle is not based on the battle itself. The battle itself is the best person wins or the best side wins. But whether or not that person wins or not is determined beforehand. You have to prepare for it. You can't just go into battle and think I'm gonna win. That's not how battles work. That's not how anything works. You don't just walk up into anything, let it happen, and then say it's gonna turn the way I want it to, or it's gonna end up being the way that I anticipated it. That's not how any of that works. And you have to take that into consideration. So when we talk about the reason why I chose this topic is because let's compare it to the militant integrationist, Black Power, Black Power, sorry, the militant integrationists, Black Power American, and Captain American Negroes, right? They always say that, we need to fight, right? We need to fight. We need to do different ways for liberation. But yet will still tell us all the ways that if we do this, something bad's going to happen. Peace Flames 2.0. And your question is why bother? Because we have no choice. We can't just roll over and die. We at least have to fight. I understand. I understand your point, Flames, that we can't just we just can't fall over and just roll over and just surrender. Of course. But at the same time, you have to prepare for it. If you're gonna fight, you're gonna have to prepare for this. You can't just be vague. You can't just be just discombobulated. You can't be, wild. You can't be sporadic. It's got to be strategic. Everything has to be planned. That's why I felt that it was so important to say it's determined before it begins. Because if you're going to fight, if you're going to protest, if you're going to do whatever, you have to plan. And what we see from the militant integrationist, the Black Power American, and the Captain American Negro is there's no desire for that planning. It's just let's just do it right here and hope for the best. Let's not plan anything. Let's not come up with strategies. Let's not come up with a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 15-year plan, not even a 1 or 2 year plan. It's just let's just do it right here to hope for the best. No, no, none of that. Like that is sort of that's what I'm getting at. Hold on, give me. All right, y'all, I'm back. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And so let's apply that to nationhood. Let's apply that to what we're bringing to the table. We see this over and over again from what we refer to as Negro stalling tactics, from militant integrationists, Black Power Americans, and the Captain American Negro is just shutting down everything that we propose. They shut down everything. They they say if we do this, this is what's gonna happen. How many times have we all in the BIO, and y'all can comment up below, how many times we say we need to do this, and they say, well, if we do this, then white folks are gonna do this, or if we do this, this group is gonna do this. How many times have we heard that statement over and over and over again? And hearing that over and over again, I come to the conclusion, well, why then stop telling us to fight. Stop telling us to fight. Stop telling us to do anything. Because your mindset is we're going to be defeated regardless, no matter what we do. So let's jockey for position in white supremacy and not think to ourselves, let's think that we can do it. There's a reason why people say your mindset is everything. They say it's everything because when you when you go to anything, when you take a test, when you go to a conference, when you do anything, okay, the very first thing you have to do is you have to come with a mindset that you can do it. I remember watching a video. It was from the Utah Jazz and Chicago Bulls. Now, this was back in the 1990s. It was 1998 NBA Finals. And the Jazz had gotten blown out by 42 points. They scored the lowest ever in the NBA. They the lowest output. No team has scored that few points in the NBA ever before. And the results was that the two leaders of the team said, one of them said, yeah, we got our butts kicked and we have to regroup and we gotta be ready to play. And then in the next video, the other leader, and if you know the Jazz back in the day, John Stockton and Karl Malone. Okay, so John Stockton comes in game 4 and says, if you come into the game thinking you can't beat the other team, you're in trouble. And that's exactly how I view nationhood or our solution in our community and status. If your mindset is this is going to happen, it's going to fail because of what happened historically, not looking at the context of how it happened historically, then we're we're bound to fail. We're bound to fail. There's no need to try. That's why I said, why bother? Why bother coming up with solutions if your whole mindset, your whole mentality is, if we do this, it's gonna go horribly wrong. Rather than thinking, okay, if we do this, what is going to be the reaction and how do we prepare for this? It's similar to driving. All of us have driver's license. All of us can drive. Nobody here, nobody here, when they're driving, just drives. When you drive, you anticipate, you prepare. You can't prepare for everything, but you're being vigilant. You're thinking, having your routes already planned. Because the worst thing to happen when you're driving is to be unaware and reckless, and then you get into an accident where you can harm yourself, others, and can face charges, go to jail. You don't want that. So you anticipate, you prepare, you do as much as you can so that that risk is mitigated. And it's the same thing with nationhood. It's the same thing with solutions to the Black community. We can't get ourselves out of this situation if our mindset is that we're going to just falter, we're going to fade, we're going to lose. No, that's not how we're going to get any progress made. Not any of it. He says the people that say that are weak, there's no building with anyone that's soft. You're correct, Vic. You're absolutely correct. We shouldn't be taking your opinion serious either. Because when we ask you, then what's the solution, you don't give us any solutions. I originally was planning to have in the thumbnail, in the title, Thanos. Because we've heard it over and over again. Thanos. They're just omnipotent, they're omnipresent, they're unstoppable. We have no answers. I was originally going to do that. I agree. Bruti, that is such a great comment. Jabari, he says, Jabari, blacks in the US are in a white maze. The problem with the strategies of the civil rights group is the integration model. The planning aim started off in quicksand, doomed from the start. You're exactly right. And that goes exactly, and that goes into, it's determined before it even begins. You're creating, you're telling us we can't do it, and then this is the only way we can go. You haven't planned for anything. You're going with this integration model. And then, like Baruti said, it's doomed to fail from the start. We tried this before, it doesn't work. And you still keep doing it. It's doomed to fail because we've already seen it fail. It's failed how many times? If something, there's a reason why that particular definition of insanity is doing something the same and expecting different results. Okay? Is the definition of insanity. It's the same way, if I were to use the example, a pencil. I have a pencil right now on my desk. If I drop the pencil, no matter how many times I drop that pencil is always going to drop to the floor. Gravity's always going to take it down. To expect the pencil to do anything different would be to defy logic, to defy science, to defy reality. Reality says that when I drop this pencil, the pencil is going to fall on the floor. Simple as that. At some point, you have to realize, okay, let's try something different. Let's approach this strategy different. And of course, it's similar to what Harlem has said over and over and over again. He uses sports analogies. I'm a little bit more engaged in sports, so I'm more likely going to speak on that. I'm going to speak on that as well. And then Harlem or whoever can chime in and join in. Whenever you're playing a team, you first have to come with the mindset that you can beat this team. Even if you don't, your mindset has to be we can beat this team. We can challenge this team. This team is not better than us. We can go toe to toe with this team. That's the first thing, the mindset. Then execution. How do we execute our strategies? How do we anticipate what's going to happen? We've looked at the scouting reports. We look at the stats. We look at the film. Now, how do we anticipate this person's going to play? How do we respond to this player's play style? What adjustments do we need to make on both the offensive defense to put ourselves in a situation to win? And that's just a game. If the season doesn't go well, the response is not to, like Harlem said, tear down the stadium, fold the team. That's it. It's something called rebuilding. Okay? You got to start all over. You have to give a new approach to this organization. This organization, in its current form, is not going to carry us very far. We're not going to make it to the playoffs. We're not going to be a championship contending team. We're not going to be a contender even in our conference or division with the current team and current makeup that we have. So we have got to change. We've got to rebuild. We got to get new pieces. We got to trade. We got to sign free agents. We have to do all of that if we want to win. And that's why I said, do we really want to win? Do we really want to put ourselves in a better position? Do we? Do we? Because to put yourself in a better position means that you have to do what it takes to be in that position. Make those trades, get those draft picks, look at the scouting reports. That's what you have to do. Same thing when we look at our current state. We have to change up our strategies. We have to change up our models. We got to change up the people who lead us. There's no way, and we talked about this last week, there's no way the unconscious community should be having that large of influence and that large of a platform. Okay? When we hear the internet pretendians, the Black Power Americans, the militant integrationists, the Captain American Negroes, the Negro stalling tactics, as I said, leadership has to be changed. Leadership has to change. We have to say, listen, we're going in a new direction. You're gonna have to step down. We're gonna make you step down. You're not gonna be the leader of this. You're not gonna be having that huge of a platform. We're not gonna be giving you that huge of a voice or consideration in decision making because you have not demonstrated that you have come to the task. We've talked about this on Harlem's forum. Competence versus confidence. You have high confidence, but you don't have the competence. You're not giving us the results we want. We've got to move on to other leaders who we feel match the qualifications, match what we want them to do, and have the driving will, and they bring the results. That's what it comes down to. Simple as that. Make sure to comment. Make sure you give your feedback, ask questions, tell us what you think about what is being said. He says, Jabari, the reason for integration model failure, blacks, a minority group, are surrounded by a hostile majority Mzungu populace who bear hatred against the former and don't favor racial equality. You're absolutely correct. Status, 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 status. And also, here's the thing about that. Not only do they don't favor racial equality, but why would they have racial equality? One of the biggest things that people have to understand is people with privilege are not going to give up that privilege unless there's a benefit. Unless there's a benefit, they're not going to give up their privilege. And they're not going to give it up. Let's be real. It's like a team. It's like a team that's winning. If a team is winning every year, why would they change it? Why would they stop winning? They're winning. If you want to see them go down, you have to beat them. Simple as that. There's no other formula. If you want them to win, you have to. If you want them to lose, you have to beat them. It's as simple. That's how you solve it. Now let's get to South Africa. Now there's a reason I'm bringing this up. The reason why is because look at South Africa. There was a system known as apartheid. Apartheid was one of the most inhumane systems ever. Brutal. From having to carry passport books where they could, if they were going to certain areas, they couldn't travel within the country freely. Constant police presence, hyper surveillance, assassinations, all of that. From P.W. Botha to Verwoerd, the architect of apartheid, all the way up to the N.F.W. de Klerk. It was that brutal regime from 1940 to 1994. But in the 1980s, as sanctions were being put on apartheid South Africa, as the black population became increasingly more impatient, Many of the white population came to the conclusion that it wasn't beneficial to have apartheid. That's why apartheid collapsed, because it wasn't in white South Africans' interest to still perpetuate apartheid. It wasn't in their best interest. If they would have continued to do it, there were fears of civil war, and there were fears that the apartheid regime was going to be overthrown. So it was a matter of time. That goes into the oppressors are not going to give it up unless there's a benefit or unless they see there's a huge cost. Let's apply that to team sports. Team's not going to stop winning, or team is not going to change their roster unless they have a reason to. That's just the truth of the matter. To expect anything else, like I said, is insanity. Complete and utter insanity. Make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to comment down below. Make sure you're asking questions. What do you think about today's topic? I disagree with this notion that the white population is being reduced. It's not. It's not going. It's not going to happen. The definition of whiteness has evolved. Yes. So you said, Jabari, could you speak on the back and forth between the United States LNP Nationalist Party and me concerning the current and future the demography of the U.S.? So yeah, so this idea that the white population is declining, that depends on how you're defining white. Are we defining white as Hispanic white or non-Hispanic white? Second thing is, the fastest group that's growing in America is multiracial Americans. And multiracial American just means anybody that's mixed race with two or more races. That could be white and Asian, that could be Asian and Indian, that can be, or Native Americans, you're not any Asian and Native American, that can be black and white, that can be black and Asian, that can be black and Native American. Like there's so many different mixtures of multiracial that just saying they're gonna just be black is disingenuous. Most mixed race marriages are are not between blacks and whites. It's actually between whites and Asians and whites and Hispanics. So this idea that it's going to become Africanized is just disingenuous. Will it become more multiracial? Yes, but multiracial and being Creole and being black are two different things. So that's my whole take on the whole demography of the U.S. is we're assuming that the white population is going to stay consistent, stay the same, it's not going to change. Or the definition of white, excuse me, the definition of white is going to stay the same, it's not going to change. Number two, we're assuming that the multiracial population is strictly blacks and whites and blacks and others, and not a mixture of white and Asian, Asian and Native American, white and Native American. So that He says black people as a collective in America, not me individually, are in serious danger of becoming a permanent underclass. The white man isn't Thanos, but we shouldn't act like losing isn't a possibility. But see, Blaine, that requires people to come with a mindset that they can win or that we can do something. Right now, our population doesn't do that. Being overly optimistic is just as bad as being overly pessimistic. A little bit of a disagreement. It's okay to be optimistic because optimistic gives you motivation to action. I think the biggest problem is don't be naive. Be optimistic, but don't be naive. There's a difference. Being naive is being seeing stuff that's positive, but not understanding the scale of the gravity of the situation. It's instead just thinking that it's going to naturally happen. It's going to naturally fall into place rather than understanding the full scale of things. Being optimistic like me is, yeah, you could say I'm overly optimistic, but at the same time, I'm strategizing. I'm thinking, I'm anticipating, I'm thinking of all avenues and how to adjust it. And I think that's the problem. It's being naive and being ill prepared. If you're optimistic and you're planning everything, you know, okay, well, we can do this, but understand this is going to happen. They might do this, they might do that. Like I said, preparing, doing the scouting report like a team would, things can go well. Or if things go south, you have the motivation to push forward versus just thinking, we're going to go out on the court, and because we got good players, that means you're going to win. No. So I understand your point. I understand your point about being optimistic in a little bit, but at the same time, I think that's more being naive rather than being overly optimistic. There's a difference, I think, between being optimistic and being naive. And I think a lot of us are naive in that we think that somehow, some way, that if we do this, this, or this, that it's going to change the outcome. Rather than actually strategizing and looking at things and actually analyzing based on historical context, based on historical analytics, and making our decisions from there. Hmm. Anybody trying to come up to the live? We would like to hear your opinions, your thoughts. We'll share the link. But yeah, yeah. It's that's why I said it's determined before it even begins. You have to prepare for things. You have to come with a mindset that I can win, and what do I need to do that can get me to win. So, Ja, the topic it's determined before it begins. Basically saying that the outcome of situations oftentimes can be decided before the outcomes actually begin. And the example that I used, Ja, was the battle. The battle is won before it even begins. And that goes into when you get to the battle, all the preparation and everything that you should have anticipated, now it's out there. Now you got to perform. And at the time of performing and actually doing it, you should have been preparing, you should have been planning, you should have been anticipating, you should have been doing all that stuff before the battle began. Once the battle hits, that the planning is done. That's over with. That's a wrap. He says black people in the U.S. basically seem to believe that upward progress, political gains, economic parity can be achieved in a Mzungu geospace without an African language. Yes, that is true. Yes, that is absolutely true. They believe that we can just do it and not understand that you have to have an African language. Because how are you going to have people speak on your behalf? Because the assumption you're making is that the assumption you're making is that they're gonna do it willingly with their hearts. Okay, and for me, that's a problem. Just believing that if we just prove to them just the skills that we have, that will be good. Understand, and this is what I mean by parenting. If their mindset is I have to work twice as hard to get that, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to walk out. Because what that shows me is you don't value the labor that I'm producing or what I have. So I'm gonna leave you. I'm gonna go somewhere where they actually do value my labor. Because why are you holding me to that expectation when you're not holding your other employees to that expectation? I shouldn't have to work twice as hard. But that's what happens when you don't have a base of operations. You don't claim your homeland. You don't do none of that. All right, we are approaching about 40 minutes. But yeah, if you're not gonna plan, if you're not gonna prepare, if you're not gonna do none of that, stop talking. Stop complaining. Because your response has always been, or the militant integration is Captain Black American, sorry, the Captain American Negro and Black American is always, if we go to Africa, this is gonna happen. Africans don't like African Americans. Africa is this, Africa is that. It's to the point where it's then why fight? You're giving up before the battle even began. You're giving up before we even got there. We ain't even got there yet. Ain't got nothing settled. We ain't got nothing over there, and you still thinking that mindset. I'm not gonna listen to you because you already lost. You lost before it even began. I need people, and we need people who have a mindset of we can win, we can do it if we put our minds to it, we plan, we anticipate, and we rebuild if necessary. That whole mindset of if we do this, it's gonna be bad, or if we do this, it's gonna happen. You don't know that's gonna happen. That's your speculation. That's your theory. That may not actually be the reality. Don't think just because that's what you think that it is gonna happen. There's a difference between what you think will happen and what will actually happen. That's called a prediction. That's not a result. That's a prediction you're making. And your prediction could be wrong. Just saying. Hmm. It has to be a multi-front prep. Yeah, it's got to prepare for everything. It can't just be one dimensional. Like, it's got to be all encompassing. Jabari, what do you think of Nigeria deploying new warships and Legos? I got to get full context on that, but I think it's good because we need our own militaries. We need a Pan African military. We need African military to invest in their military technology, ballistics, all of that. Oh no, you're right. I don't look at us as a monolithic team. I see it as some of us are going to make it and some of us aren't. You're right. And it's made the bet. Like I said, you prepare, and I like the point you made. And it goes into it's determined before it begins. It goes back to everything that we're talking about. May the best side win. The side that's more prepared, the side that's more organized, is gonna win. The side that just talks and mumbles and brings no results, they're gonna lose. They're gonna lose. They didn't prepare, they didn't plan, they didn't do none of that. They're going to lose. Why do civil rights groups stay back? Do not believe in it. I think it's because you got to get to the. It's got to be a grassroots thing. Like I said, it's gotta come from the bottom up. It's great that President Kufu Addo was speaking in Atlanta, but here's the thing: there's a lot of beef between. There's some beef with African Americans in Ghana because you're asking for us to invest. You say quote unquote come home, but you're not giving people incentives. What does that mean? It means you got to give people a reason to come there, not just tell us, oh, speak to the National Association of Black State Legislators about potential opportunities in Africa. No, it's got to be from the grassroots up, and most importantly, that African government has to bring results. That's why there are some African Americans who there was even stuff on YouTube that saying why African Americans are boycotting Ghana. So it's really a two-way thing. Although we should be establishing links to Africa, I think the problem is one is looking at us individually, but also expectations and demands that we want, and also values. So that all goes in the problem. That's a real interesting. I was just reading about that, but yeah, that's just a simple reality of situation. Oh, now, hold on. Let me explain the African Americans in Ghana situation. Mhm, mhm. I think the reason why they don't believe in the Africa linkage because they don't see it. We're assuming that civil rights groups are on this woke Africa stuff, like we are, or that they're aware of African history the way that we are, or the understanding that we think. We're making that assumption. They don't see it that way. And if they don't see it that way, it's hard for them to believe in the African if they can't see it. Remember, like what Harlem said, remember that phrase, if it's if everything's a nail, the solution's always a hammer. I'm sorry, if the solution's a hammer, everything's a nail. That's what it is. And so that's why they may not believe in an African linkage. And actually, let me go back to the Ghana situation because this is real crazy. This is real crazy, right? This just shows us the battle. It just shows everything I've been talking about. So they were upset. There are African Americans who want to go to Ghana and they're upset about the vaccine mandate. And my response has always been, and one person in the comments said, it's crazy how the vaccine mandates are being talked about more outside of Ghana than in Ghana. And it's coming primarily from African Americans. They're like, I love Africa, but I'm not taking the vaccine. My response has always been this. First, people know I'm usually pro-vaccine. I'm pro-vaccine without a doubt. That's my personal opinion. That's my personal stance. But one of the questions like they're using it against black people. My response has always been, did you prepare? Did you put up the infrastructure? Stop blaming other groups of people when you ain't put the infrastructure up there. Did you put the infrastructure so that black folks could do research and develop their own medicines? Create their have their own patents? Did you create that? That's the thing. You have too many people who care or too many people that don't understand how a functioning society works. They don't know how to run a society. It's the same thing here. Okay. If you wanted to address the situation, you should have been prepared for it. We should have been doing research. We should have been trying to get black doctors and not just regular black doctors like chiropractors, immunologists, virologists, radiologists, bacteriologists. I'm talking about specialized doctors. We should have been investing in that. The number of black doctors from today to what it was 40, 50 years has not changed. And now we're complaining of the pandemic. Sorry, but we should have been prepared for this. We should have been anticipating this. Like I said, the battle is won before it begins. You had time to prepare for this. You had time to be ready for this, anticipate it, and you didn't do it. Now, of course, there's some things that are unexpected. Things always are unexpected. You can't anticipate everything. But you should have a blueprint. When the battle is here, it's here. There's no more planning or oh why no, you should have been preparing. Off topic, but do you believe that another cultural renaissance shift would save lower middle income blacks from hood culture? Hood culture is extremely dysfunctional. We need to get rid of it. We need a cultural revival to restore traditional African American values. I think that can happen like a Harlem Renaissance, but in order for that to happen, you got to have an environment. Like I said, everything happens, you got to have an environment. The Harlem Renaissance came from the aftermath of World War One, the Great Migration. And notice it's often called the Harlem Renaissance because it was in Harlem. It was based in that environment. And the UNIA and the New Negro movement. All of that contributed to that Renaissance. In order for that Harlem Renaissance to happen, there have been many Renaissances. The Harlem Renaissance is the most well known, But there was one back early in the 1850s, 1840s with Black literature just after Reconstruction. So there have been many renaissances, but the biggest way to have that again is the environment. And that's why we say social, economic, and political control. You have to have the environment. So you have to have that environment. Thinking you're going to have a Harlem Renaissance in today's environment and not control it, it's impossible. In my opinion, it's impossible. I'd love for that to happen. I'd love for that to happen. All right. Let's see, anything else I need to address? Well, I would say my last major point, the last major point I would make is that you have to be ready. You have to be prepared. You can't anticipate everything, but you got to anticipate. You can't walk in blind. You can't wipe in this, or you can't walk in discombobulated. You have to actually plan. You actually have to put in work. You actually have to think about everything that it encompasses. You have to do all of that. And nothing, nothing is a piece of cake. Nothing. Okay, let's get that out the way. Nothing is simple. Nothing is a piece of. He says, "Can y'all hear me? Just want to make sure." Um. I actually get to Ja's point. He says 100% pro vax. We should have developed or vax like Cuba, but that also goes for Africa countries. African countries too need to stop asking Western countries for vax. I kept saying that. We keep saying that we don't want Western vaccines and we don't feel comfortable with them. But are you putting the investments so that you don't have to rely on them? So that when another pandemic happens, we can vaccinate our own population. We can do research on it. We can come up with it that deals with African genetics and deals with African people and works in the interest of African people. Right now, there how many black pharmaceutical manufacturers are there? Like how many? How many black pharmacies are there? How many black research facilities are there on the continent that do research and, like I said before, immunology, virology, and not just those areas, doing endocrinology, focusing on endocrine, bacteriology, focusing on bacteria, focusing on ideology, which is being an ideologist, radiology, focusing on pediatrics, bariatrics, orthopedics, orthodontics. Where are they? If we're, like I said, you have to prepare, you have to invest. Don't complain about other groups of people when you ain't prepped for it. Don't. I'm so. It gets annoying. Oh, and I'll address your point, Baruti. I didn't address your point, but I'll address it. In reference to Flame 2.0 questions, you have to give them a purpose. It's the dominant form because there's no purpose. And we don't control the environment and the narrative. If hood culture would not be a thing, if many of our people felt like there was a future, or they felt that they were involved in something that was bigger than them. Right now, that hood culture is put out there because one, that's what's most known, that's what's most plastered, and we don't control the environment. Once you put ourselves in an environment, we control it, and people can see results, and people can see that they can be part of something, that hood culture is going away. But we can't do that right now with this nonsense. He says, how many level 4 bios do we have? South Africa has advanced future stuff from the AIDS pandemic. Yeah, but you're right. The unfortunate answer is not enough. Exactly. I mean, for goodness sakes, we don't even manufacture our own weapons. In Nigeria, I want people to know this. Do you not know in Nigeria, they don't even manufacture their own postage stamps? They get it from the UAE. But y'all complaining about we don't want Western governments to do anything, or we don't want these other groups. You can't even manage your own postage stampage. And you think we're going to be able to survive on our own when you can't manufacture a simple postage stamp? You get them imported from the UAE. You get all your chicken from, you get all your chicken and rice from Thailand. You get your rice from Indonesia. You get your hair products from Malaysia. It's where's the made in Nigeria at? Where's the made in Rwanda? Where is the made in Burundi? Where is the made in Angola? Where is the made in Eswatini? Where's the made in Chad? The made in Benin? Where is that at? Where is it? Like I said, if you want to look at in the pandemic who fared the best, all you gotta look at who prepared their societies. Just look at it. The societies that prepared for it, anticipated, and responded did better. There's a reason why the US and Brazil have some of the highest COVID deaths. Didn't prepare, didn't plan, didn't adjust, didn't do none of that. The reality is other nations make enough to export. We can't even support ourselves. It's not even they don't make enough to export. They invest in their industry so that they can export. You have to invest in the means of production. This is the one thing I do. We must control the means of production. You have to control the supply chain. You have to control the logistics. You have to control the resources. You have to support the human capital, financial capital. You have to support all of that. You can't just pull up and be like, why can't we produce anything? You can't produce anything because you ain't investing in anything. I've said this numerous times. Ghana learned that it's less expensive to train your own engineers than to get engineers from abroad. Yeah, because you're importing them. Also, that gives more employment to your youth. In many African countries, the average age is 17, 18, 19, 16, 15, 14. You need to be putting these people in school. School should be all over the place. Math, math, science, engineering, technology should be hammering into these kids' brains. Infrastructure projects should be all over the place. Research opportunities should be all over the place. Internships should be all over the place to prepare these young people to get into the workforce. Public policy should be taught to these African kids. They should be able to vote when they're 16. Even they should be able to vote when they're 14 in local elections. They need to be engaged. Right. This right here is true. Example that Nigerian oil crisis importing all that oil while not refining the oil under their own feet. Literally, instead of investing money into refining technologies or investing in green renewable energy, we're busy focusing on let's just import oil. Rather than simply say, you know what, we're gonna invest in oil, we're gonna invest in petroleum engineers, we're gonna invest in civil engineers, we're gonna do all this so we can. We don't do that. Also, another example not preparing for, your economies are based on commodities. So you look at Africa's exports, that map, and you see it's nothing but raw materials. I'm about to show y'all. We've seen this map. We've all seen this map. So let me get it. We've all seen this map. Let me put it up so that people can understand the scale. We've all seen this. Hold on, let me get to it. We've all seen this map. We've all seen it. You see diamonds, gold, clothing and shoes, soft drink concentrations, diamonds, platinum, copper, aluminum, tobacco, gold, tea, coffee, livestock, grains, coffee, rubber, fish, iron ore, phosphate, cotton, uranium, oil, petroleum products, crude oil and petroleum products. This is what cocoa beans. You would think this looks amazing, right? Now, I want you to notice this. Notice you don't see nothing that's brown or nothing that's gray or blue. Notice that. Notice you don't see this and you don't see this or this. I want you to notice that. I want you to pay very close attention to those colors. Well, Equatorial Guinea has timber, but notice how you don't see a lot of this and you don't see a lot of this. Now, I'm gonna I'm gonna show you this. I'm about to show you Europe's exports value and Asia's. Europe. I want you to look at the difference. I want you to look at the difference. I'm about to show you Europe's map. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you the whole world. Let me show you the whole world map. Let me open this in a new tab. Let me show you the whole world map. Well, the whole world map might be too small. Yeah, it's a little bit too small, so I'm just going to break it down by region. I want you to look at Europe's map. Okay, let's look at Europe's map. Let me show you Europe's map. Look at the difference of Europe's map. Look at it. Manufactured goods, computers, electrical and optical equipment, petroleum and petroleum products, machinery and motor vehicles. Look at what Belgium has. Finished diamonds, metals and metal products, iron and steel, food and beverages, engineering products, machinery and transportation equipment, mineral products, machinery and motor vehicles, agricultural products, petroleum products and chemicals, petroleum products. Notice the difference with that. And then here you got manufactured products. Notice the difference. Machinery and transportation, electronics, and make up the bulk of it. Look at that map. Okay. Now, let me go back and show you Asia's in North America as well. Let me show you Asia. If I could show you, well, no, I'm going to show the whole world. It's going to be really small, but just work with me. Okay. Just work with me. Okay. Let's share this one more time. I know it's going to be really small, but I just need to show this emphasis. All right. So you see, if you can see this, hopefully you can. If you see this, notice how Africa is straight up raw materials. And you look at the rest of the world, you see what? Capital goods, motor vehicles and parts, transport equipment, electronic equipment and machinery, precious stones, motor vehicles, oil and gas. Notice dairy products. Notice you're seeing finished goods in other parts of the world. We're just doing raw materials, and that's why our GDP is so low. That's a problem. Notice how all of the major economies have grays or blues. That's what we should be striving for, grays and blues and light blues. Okay, all of this pink and all of this stuff, and it's not even finished coffee. It's just getting coffee beans from the ground, and that's it. He says all of Africa's exports were raw materials, which isn't good. Manufactured goods makes money. Exactly, Alexis. Exactly. Hey, you need manufactured goods. GQ is another one to be UAE, Kuwait, or Qatar and get it popping. Exactly. He says, are natives going to be welcoming to us, though? The history of Liberia is controversial when pertaining to us American brothers and us being seen as how we've gone past that. Lift every voice. I'm going to put this into the chat. Hold on, let me put it into the chat because I've actually spoken to a historian about that whole Americo-Liberian conflict. And I debunked that in a video that we've done. So I'm about to put this link in the description and please go over it because it's going to explain a lot to you. So excuse me, hold on, echo, there's an echo. Let me share the link and I go into complete analysis over this. So lift every voice. Please watch this video. It's going to explain that whole conflict, and it will debunk all of that. It will debunk all of that. You'll be surprised. They were selling it last time I was there. Okay, that's good. That's good. Making some progress. Making some progress. That's good to hear. How can we not be leaders in solar? How can we not be leaders in solar? How can we not be leaders in wave energy, water energy? How come we can't be leaders in flying cars? How can we get a collective HBCU president to believe in African language and taken to create plans for HBCUs to facilitate multi-level language within the capacity spectrum? I don't have all the answers, but my answer would be that they need to see investments. One of the ways that they would invest or see the importance is if there is a return on investment. If the return on investment is high, they'll see a linkage. If the return on investment, if they don't see a return in investment, they're not going to do it because they're going to invest or believe in an Africa linkage when there's a return on investment. Excuse me. When there's a return on investment, folks will show up. But there's got to be that return on investment. So the very first thing we got to do is create incentives. I always say that incentives, so that strengthens the possibilities on high returns on investments. Okay. Then you got to be able to show them what they can do here that they wouldn't be able to do in America. We would have to show that to them. Also, Alexis, if you're still here, if you want to come on the show, you can come on. We really appreciate the sisters on. So if you want to come on, you can definitely come on. But those would be my two suggestions: incentives and showing them ways that they can benefit without they can benefit in Africa compared to being in America. So an example would be if you come here, this is the position that you'll get. These are the responsibilities that you'll be able to have, and this is what you'll be able to turn. You have to show them that aspect. Also, he's right. Someone needs to cut checks. Yeah. And Alexa liked the point. That's why Ghana's president stopped exporting raw cocoa so they can make more money selling chocolate candy and other goods. The possibilities are endless when you're investing in getting those machinery because it creates supply and demand. In Ghana, let's say my natural resources are cocoa. But let's say somewhere in South Africa it's metals. Let's just say that. Or North Africa, you saw that phosphates, iron ore, uranium. Well, I can go to Morocco and invest in them to do more machinery, and then they can export their machines to me to manufacture the chocolate, and I sell my chocolate, my Ghanaian chocolate, to Moroccans, and it encourages intra-African trade. Like Niger, Niger has uranium. We use their uranium for power plants and stuff like that. We invest in that. We help build it. In return, we get some of that uranium products, and then it encourages intra-African trade. But that's what you need. We need to start thinking finished goods. Think resistors. Think transistors. Think semiconductors. Think microchips. Think nanotechnology. Think electric cars. Think self-healing concrete. Think of finished goods. Hey, stuff that demonstrates innovation because we're approaching a time in history where labor is no longer the value. The value is human capital. We're heading into the knowledge economy where intangible assets are going to be what drives money and income. Quantum computing, nanoscience, nanotechnology, material science, and engineering. It has to come through that. information technology, apps. All of that is going to be the main drivers of growth. He says also needs to do China method in regards to HBCUs. Africa does, and specifically Liberia. Liberia does, because you need that direct discussion. There needs to be a base somewhere where African Americans can go to. What is the return on investment for those CWIs that are creating linkages with African nations research, or does that white man just understand that Africa is rich and useful to colleges? The reason why is soft power. And that's something we as Black Americans understand, soft power. American universities want to invest in Africa because they want to influence African policy. We in America don't. Black Americans don't think that way. And that's unfortunate. We don't understand the importance of soft power. That you need to be sending, it shouldn't be just exclusively Black because that limits your soft power. You need to be making connections with the University of Ghana, the University of Botswana, the University of Cape Town, the University of KwaZulu-Natal, the University of Johannesburg, the University of Witwatersrand, or the University of Wits, the University of Zambia, University of Liberia. So many different African universities to increase your soft power. But other universities, they understand that soft power. And also, if I treat those African college students really nicely, they're going to be more likely to stay. And you end up brain draining the continent because African leaders are not giving their people those kind of incentives or those opportunities. If we as Africans in the BIO said, you know what, as an African American, if you come to Liberia, you'll become a citizen, you'll be in charge of these fields, you'll be able to do these projects, you'll be able to be these subcontractors, you'll be able to do all of this, more people would come. But that model is not being implemented. The understanding of soft and hard power to us, it seems like a foreign concept to us. So that's what, to me, why we're not creating that. We don't understand the importance of soft power. If we did, we wouldn't be in this situation. Soft power means a lot, and it goes a long way. That's why China tries to do the Belt and Road Initiative, doing the Huawei IT academies. Soft power and influence. That's how you gain support. Hey, that's how we have to think about things. Like I said, I think about stuff whole thing. He says, what is soft power and why do blacks not see the enormous impact of soft power? What can be done to change this mindset? Okay, soft power is anything that's not military or brute force. So soft power, the way of showing soft power would be cultural, social. Think about it. America saturates the world with its culture, its television shows, its sports. It brings its U.S. companies to the country. That is a form of soft power. You're influencing people's values based on yours, but you're not doing it in a militaristic brute force way. You're doing it through softer methods, social, cultural, political. We don't see the enormity of soft power because we think that means that we don't run it. That's the biggest reason. Because we don't run anything. If we ran it, we would understand the importance of soft power. But we don't. And we got to change that mindset by first understanding that soft power is a way that you can influence policy. But the very first thing you have to do is you have to own it. We don't own it. So it's hard to pull back that soft power because here's an example. You don't own BET. You don't own the NBA. You don't own the NFL. So, for example, if the U.S. government and the NBA said to NBA players, you can't do this, those NBA players are handicapped. It was the same thing with the boycott in NBA players. There were black people who thought that if these black athletes boycott the entire season, that's what would really create change. And they brought in a good point that said that if they did boycott, they would lose millions of dollars in their salary, like a huge percentage of their salaries. They might terminate the collective bargaining agreement. The owners would cast the players in a bad light, and then those NBA players would be on their own, okay, on how they're going to get paid. How are they going to make a living? How much money would they get paid versus what they would be getting in the NBA? Then, and then an example of soft power would be Obama. Obama and Jordan come in and change the players' mind. That's soft power. You didn't have to punish them. You talking influenced those players to stop their boycott. That's what happened. And that's the point of soft power. Soft power is meant to influence in a non-threatening, non-brutal way. Another example of soft power would be this. If I'm in a country where my biggest trading partner is America, and America invests its culture and all this stuff into me, I'm less likely to turn my back against America because America is responsible for a lot of my income because I trade with them a lot. If they cut me off, livelihoods are going to be destroyed. That's another example of soft power. So first, you got to own it. Then once you own it, then you got to figure out what are you trying to get from it. What is the goal of soft power? Is the goal of soft power to get reparations? If the goal of soft power is to change the views of black people, it all starts there. And everything that I just went through is all a power of it's determined before it even begins. You have to prepare. You have to prepare. You have to anticipate. You got to be prepared for all possible scenarios and then prepare your people to, if it doesn't go as planned or anticipated, they're able to adjust. Don't put your eggs in one basket. Don't be static. Be prepared, be shape shifting, be amorphous. Okay? Don't think it can't happen. Like you were saying, don't think that don't think that it can't happen. People thought the pandemic couldn't happen. It happened. People think climate change can't happen or it's not happening. It's happening. Things can happen, but you need to prepare and anticipate. Same thing with artificial intelligence and all of this crazy stuff. People say it's dystopia. No, it's not dystopia. It's dystopia because you ain't prepared for it. You're basing it off of a movie. And movies are fiction. They have some truth to it, but they're fiction. What happens in movies oftentimes doesn't have happen in real life, period. If you don't want something to happen in the movies, which most likely it won't because they, like I said, they don't always go to plan. But if you want to stop stuff from happening, the answer is simple. You anticipate it. You prepare for it. If you're going to have artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, artificial super intelligence, you need to have that. We need to be having discussions about that. We need to be having a code of ethics, an AI standard of protocol. You need to be preparing for that because once artificial general intelligence, super intelligence is here, it's too late to rein it in. It's here. The way it's going to be determined is how we plan it, how we anticipate, how we strategize, how we analyze, how we study it, how we do this is going to determine it. Same thing with nationhood. How nationhood is going to succeed or determine is going to be based on the practices, strategies that we implement. Everything that we do and implement is going to determine whether or not it's success or failure, and whether or not we're able to come back or not. All of it. Some of it is prepared. A lot of it is unanticipated. I'm not going to say everything's going to go according to plan. It's not. That's unrealistic. Nothing goes that way. But the goal should be when something unexpected happens, you've already planned, you've done your research that you're able to shapeshift. You're able to be amorphous. You're able to come up with new ideas to address that situation, and you're not static. You're not shell shocked. You're not caught off guard. That's why for me, when I write a book, as I've been doing for the past couple of years, or I do any assignments, I like to always organize and plan things out. Hey, it doesn't go exactly to plan, but I have this blueprint, this structure to where if something does go off, it wasn't something I anticipated, it's still high quality, it still meets the standard because I took that time, I prepared for it, and then now I'm able to perform. Because once the battle is there, once you're on the battlefield, there's no more planning, it's execution now. It's let the best person, best team, best man win. You may not always be on that side, but even if you're not on that side, you still go back and plan and you still think that you can do it. Because if you cannot do it, or you think you cannot do it, why bother to try? Why bother to analyze? Why bother to even put effort? Remember this is what Michael Jordan said. Michael Jordan said, failure, it's not bad to fail. It's bad not to even try. I'd rather try, prepare, plan, execute, and then lose so that I can analyze and make better decisions than to automatically think it's going to fail or the what ifs, because that shows that you never had true belief in yourself, but also you don't think you possess the skills. And if we believe in Black excellence, we believe in Black girl magic, we believe in Black boy joy, then you have to come with the mindset that we can do it. We won't always succeed. We're not perfect, but we can do it. We prepare and we strategize and we adjust. And with that, fam, if there aren't any more questions, make sure to tune in to tonight's Discord. If you are a BIL member, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you sign up to that website. We have so many things we have planned. We want you to be a part of it. We want your friends, your family, everybody to be a part of it. This is a group effort. Nationhood is not a one man army. You cannot do it by yourself. Everybody plays a role, and everybody can make a shape. Make sure to sign up to the website. You will not regret it. And of course, fam, with that, I want to put it both ways. Let you know either way works. Make sure also to follow Black African Infrastructure if you have Facebook. Follow the BIO if you're on Facebook as well. If you're on Twitter, if you're on Instagram, follow our channels at the Real BIO, BIO Afghanistan to catch up on what's up to date. Of course, y'all, I am Jabari Lamb. It was nice talking to you guys. If you don't have any more questions, or any more statements, I would say see y'all at the Discord, and y'all have a great day. Peace, fam. Peace and blessings, family. And of course, have a great day. Have a great start to your week. Think positive. And remember, we're on the beginning stages, but you have to believe and you have to see.